Hello and welcome to NY and JPA Weather. This is your congested meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. And first, I want to thank you for choosing NY and JPA Weather as your weather source for the northern mid Atlantic. Well, obviously, the main story is Hurricane Earl. Hurricane Earl is a dangerous, intense hurricane with 145 mile per hour sustained winds. It is a Category 4 hurricane. It is currently moving to the north northwest and is approaching 75 degrees west. And I'll explain in a minute why that's important. For today, high pressure is pretty much in control once again. And with that high pressure, we're going to continue to have hot temperatures with highs in the upper 80s over the northern interior, down to the lower to mid 90s down over the New York City and Philadelphia metropolitan area, especially the uh, Delaware River Valley. So, for the most part, what we have is a repeat of what we had yesterday, except it's going to be a little bit more cloud cover as some of the outer high clouds of Hurricane Earl start to press to the north and northwest into the mid Atlantic. Let's take a look at Earl right now. So, this is Hurricane Earl. Hurricane Earl is a very intense Category 4 hurricane. Now, earlier on this morning, it went through an eye wall replacement, and as a result, the pressure rose a bit. But right now, Hurricane Earl looks just as intense as it always has, and it is still a very powerful Category 4 hurricane. I expect the fluctuation intensity to continue throughout the day, rising and falling. Uh, but for the most part, anyone that's in the path of this hurricane is going to have some significant impacts. The size of this hurricane is very impressive. The latest observations had the hurricane force winds out to 90 miles from the center and tropical storm force winds 220 miles from the center. So even if the eye itself is not impacting or moving through your location, you're still going to have some impacts from Hurricane Earl. So even if the shift of the eye is a little bit further east, you're still going to have to deal with some significant impacts, especially if you're on the immediate coast. As for the track of Earl, I'm keeping a close eye on just how far west Earl gets before turning due north and then turning north northeast. Now, basically, if Earl passes 75 degrees west, if it reaches, let's say, 75.4 or 76 degrees west, which is a little bit on the extreme side, but let's just say hypothetically, then the impacts on the New Jersey coast increase exponentially. Right now, I'm expecting Earl to get as far west as 75.2, maybe 75.3 degrees west before starting to turn north northeast and exiting out towards the Atlantic. I expect at this point that the New Jersey coastal waters will have the worst impacts out of the entire northern mid Atlantic, but the New Jersey coast and Long Island are going to get pretty hammered as well. Let's take a look at the water vapor to see what's going to curve Earl off to the northeast. So here we have the water vapor satellite loop, and basically the main factor that's going to curve Earl to the northeast is the trough that is over the Great Lakes. Now, the best lifting and the best dynamics with this trough are clearly going to be focused towards the St. Lawrence River Valley and New England and the Canadian Maritimes. However, the winds at the upper levels with this trough will have an influence on Earl, obviously. And those winds are going to come from the southwest. As a result, as Earl moves north towards the New Jersey coastal waters, the brunt of the convection with Earl is going to start to shift more and more to the northeast. So the eastern semicircle of Earl will remain very intense, but the western semicircle of Earl, the areas that will impact the New Jersey coast and Long Island, will begin to weaken because of that shear. Still, I still expect very impressive impacts along the New Jersey coast with tropical storm force winds, a minor storm surge, and definitely some coastal flooding and beach erosion issues. Very heavy rainfall along the immediate New Jersey coast. For Long Island, especially eastern Long Island, very heavy rain. Winds approaching hurricane strength, could possibly push into hurricane strength at 80 miles per hour, depending on the exact track of Earl, which we'll keep an eye on. Locations that will really be significantly impacted will be further to the north and east, actually, towards Cape Cod and Nantucket. Those locations are going to be almost right in the path of Earl and will likely have the worst impacts of almost everybody along the East Coast. So the other good news is that Earl is going to move pretty quickly off to the northeast and exit out into the Atlantic with limited duration of impact. So by Friday night, most locations will be clearing out with very pleasant conditions for the weekend. So this is the threat analysis for the northern Mid-Atlantic with this hurricane. Premium members have had this map up for about 4 days. I haven't really have to change it all that much. Uh, if you are in eastern Long Island, central Long Island, down through the New Jersey coast, specifically from eastern Monmouth County down through Cape May County, expect strong tropical storm force winds, possibly touching hurricane force winds at times, very heavy rains, about an inch to a half an inch along the New Jersey coast, could be up to as much as 3 inches over eastern Long Island and southeastern Connecticut. As you move north and west towards the New York City metropolitan area, you could actually see some breaks of sun as Earl's passing by, and that's because dry air is going to be infiltrating Earl as it's moving northeast. So the impacts will still be there. You'll still have strong gusty winds, periods of heavy rain, kind of like a weakening nor'easter in a way for New York City. It's not going to be that intense of a storm for New York City because Earl's going to continue to move to the northeast. Now, remember, if there's any shift to the west or east, this forecast will change dramatically. But again, I think right now we're in a pretty good ballpark of where exactly Earl's going to end up, at least off the New Jersey coast. And finally, if you're further west towards the Delaware River and over eastern Pennsylvania and the northern interior, the impacts from Earl will be minimal. Actually, the majority of the impacts from any rainfall on Friday is actually going to come from the cold front that's going to approach from the west. So clearly, this is a coastal situation that we're going to keep an eye on, but the worst impacts are going to be along the coast. After Earl exits and the cold front exits, high pressure is in control through early next week with very, very favorable and comfortable conditions with temperatures in the 70s and 80s and low humidity. Thank you for choosing NYNJPA Weather as your weather source. Have an excellent day and stay safe out there.